Hello everyone, it's David again, talking about Babylon 5 Season 2 Episode 20, Comes the Inquisitor. If you all remember, Sebastian is in this episode, aka Jack the Ripper. Starts off with Jakar, and he's out there street preaching about the Centauri coming for them. Kind of reminds me of those few people who were talking about Hitler. We gotta watch out for this demagogue. He's gonna, disrupt life in southern Germany, and then northern Germany, and then all of Germany, and then he's going to take the Sudetenland, and then he's going to take the rest of Czechoslovakia. Of course, we also had, the Anschluss in Austria, and that stuff, and it took everybody until it was really almost too late to react to him, until Poland was literally split in two. So does this kind of remind you of that guy? That's kind of what struck me as I was rewatching this episode. And someone pulls Jakar away for a meeting, street meeting of all the rest of the Narns, to see if Jakar is still their guy. And you see Veer looking on helplessly in the Zocalo. We zip on over, and Delenn meets with Kosh. Kosh has sent for an Inquisitor, and she's to basically submit to his questions. And if you guys hear a weird sound, my cat has found one of his toys, and he's just mercilessly playing with it. It's actually a little tube of cardboard thing, but it makes a hell of a racket, so why not do it while Daddy is taping a video. We cue the entrance to this scene, and the two main actors, or guest actors, Wayne Alexander as Sebastian. He plays multiple other roles, most notably as Lorien. And Mr. Sebastian is still with us. And wonder if he's going to reprise his role as Lorien. So, do you guys know? I haven't, of course, the foggiest on staffing things, because JMS has made it abundantly clear, if he catches you guys talking out loud on that sort of thing, he will terminate your Patreon, not your membership, but at least your access to his part of the Patreon. Haven't heard much also in the Facebook groups. So if any of you have any information on that, go ahead and put it down below in the comments section. We have a Jack Keller as Mr. Chase, the weapons dealer with a really grumpy voice, or gravelly voice. He was born May 22nd, 1946 in Philadelphia. A nice city. Had a chance to visit there once when I was in nurses conference. He is age 75, and he is also still with us. So, wonder if he's going to reprise any sort of role in the new Babylon 5. It's kind of the nice thing about, it not having come out yet, and a lot of people like us, able to talk in circles, not like we were able to do in the 95 and, original series, but we can talk to each other about sort of things like, who do you think is going to play this part? Who's going to play this part? Who's going to be in that part? What time frame are we talking about here? So, at any rate, back on to this Babylon 5, the original one. Kosh is having doubts about Delenn making decisions, so he wants this Inquisitor to come on board and put Delenn through the paces, and boy does he ever put her through the paces. And so Delenn goes to meet with Sheridan and basically said, can you get this guy through customs, no questions asked. We zip on over, and Jakar is meeting with Mr. Chase in his gravelly voice to purchase weapons. Jakar notices that a lot of weapons that this guy's selling to him are, in fact, Narn weapons that Narn sold to Earth during the Earth-Minbari War. When no one else would support us, the Narns stepped in. And the gentleman said, right now it's a seller's market, dude. And I got a family to feed too. But you know what? Let it never be said that I don't have a heart. Knock 10% off the price. And he said, well, give me time to think about it. He goes, okay, but when I come back tomorrow, it will be full price. And so Jakar says, okay, 50% down, 50% on delivery. And he said, done. And on his way out, Jakar basically threatens him or explains to him that, hey, look, this 500,000 credits, or the credits that I'm giving you, he doesn't necessarily say all 500,000 credits that he has, but he says, look, the credits I'm giving you are from the life savings of the Narns on this station, and it's a limited resource, and should it be squandered, understand that while your body may be found, it will be unrecognizable to identify your remains. And the guy kind of just nods his head and like, okay, which I'm sure being an arms dealer, he gets threatened all the time. Now, of course, as we know with Lord Rifa, you don't want to mess with the Narns, okay? Even if they don't have a planet necessarily to call home. Don't want to screw with them because we all know that they can make sure you're never heard from again. Anyway, a Vorlon transport comes through, and we know it's not Ambassador Kosh because Ambassador Kosh has never left B5. So Ivanov is like, hey, Captain, guess what? Christmas has arrived early. There's another Vorlon ship. And a man with a single-point cane goes up to Sheridan and says, I believe I am expected. And he says some information. He is from 14B Harrisford Lane, and he left London in 1888, which is interesting because, as we all may know, November 11th, 1888 is the last of the confirmed Jack the Ripper cases. Wasn't necessarily the last Jack the Ripper case, but the last confirmed case. So, and he also says he's been in the service of the Vorlons for 400 years. However, my simpleton math says it's 371 years. So, someone correct me on my math if I'm wrong, but maybe he said nearly 400 years, and I just didn't hear that part of it. We end up with Mr. Garibaldi confronting Jakar about arms sales on Babylon 5. And Jakar said, look, I already know you well enough to know that you don't ask leading questions unless you know the answer. And I tend to be a lot like that myself, especially when I'm on the internet talking to people. If I don't know anything about a particular subject, I keep my mouth shut. I find that to be better. But when people, especially when they come into medical chat rooms, me having been a nurse, is I will ask them leading questions. And if you don't have the right answers, I will grill you up one side and down the other. I don't know if any of you have that in your line of profession, but it's one thing like if a student or even if general public comes on and asks questions, with the pandemic, we're getting a lot of that, and I have no problem with that. It's the idiots who run in, who act like they know what they're talking about. They spew out all of this garbage. A lot of times they have no links whatsoever to what they're talking about, or if they do, it's just absolute junk websites, and they pontificate like they know what the hell they're talking about, when it's very obvious they don't. Reminds me of what one doctor told me once, and he's like, David, it's like 10,000 angry toddlers were just let loose in the medical chat rooms, and we're having to sit there and just constantly deal with these idiots. Instead of doing, chatting about medical things, we're having to sit there and it's the same arguments over and over and over again. So, anyway, Mr. Sebastian, back to Jakar. Mr. Garibaldi confronts him. He confesses his sins, and Garibaldi says, well, I can't have you doing it here on Babylon 5, but here's some information on a guy I know in Sector 90. He's by a jump gate, pretty much all by himself, and he can sneak some contraband in and out of wherever, and he owes me a favor, so here I am passing this info on to you. We zip on over, and Mr. Sebastian has Delenn putting on manacles, and he starts the ever-favorite Buddhist question, and maybe Hinduism as well. The who are you? Boom, and, gives her electric shocks whenever he doesn't like her answers. Reminds me a little bit of when I retired from nursing, and I had to go through a lot of soul searching because, my entire adult life had been built around being a nurse. And so I had to find out who David was without being Nurse David anymore. And it's actually been quite an interesting ride over the last, I would say, 8 or 9 years since I had to leave the nursing profession. Have any of you had to go on one of those rides where literally you just bam, you couldn't practice, or you had a life-changing moment, I guess would be the correct question. Have you ever had a life-changing moment where you suddenly had to figure out who you were? Go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'd really appreciate listening to your stories. One thing he said about Delenn is pride will prevent you from removing the manacles. And sometimes I can agree with that. People are absolutely convinced that they and only they have the answers. Especially demagogues who say, me and only me can fix the problems. Hitler said it, Mussolini said it, all the way up to modern day people like Trump, America first. I'll fix all of your problems. And then you ask people who, go into somebody like Trump, and, well, Trump's fixing all of our problems. Okay, which one has he fixed for you? And you ask people all the time, what problems has he fixed for you? Like President Biden. One of my things I point out to people is my healthcare bills went from $803 a month just for the insurance. It went from $803 a month down to $72 a month. And that was a concrete thing, but 90%, 95% of the people cannot tell you why they chose a particular somebody for president, whether it's Biden or Trump or Clinton or Bush or whomever. They just go click right down the road, the same way Grandma and Grandpappy used to do it. But I digress. Another scenery in there. Veer is trying to apologize to Jakar, and Jakar it's where he slits his hand and he goes, dead, dead, dead. How can they forgive you? And he goes, I don't know, then I can't forgive. Or, wow, Jakar. It's still raw for him, you can tell that for certain. Reminded me of when I took care of that Hiroshima victim, and I was about ready to start crying. I'm so sorry this happened to you. And he's like, David, you were born in 1972, about 30 some odd years after this happened to me. This is not your responsibility. It's like, well, okay, if you say so. I'm trying so hard not to just be, when I took his shirt off and I got to see all the scars and stuff on his back from catching the nuclear blast full force. I mean, this guy was right near the epicenter. It's like, holy crap, dude. Anyway, Sebastian's now got his manacles going, and he's given Delenn electric shocks whenever he doesn't like her answers. And he says to her, "Be a nice Minbari, conform and admit you are inadequate." And she screams out, "No." And he's like, "What cause do you..." And, she says, actually, "This is my cause, life." When he's like, like, "What cause are you fighting for?" And he's like, "Ah." And he quotes John 15:13, "Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends." It kind of paraphrases it. But so he goes a little bit from, Buddhist mysticism to some Christianity thrown in there. Complains that he's Diogenes with his lamp. And Sheridan comes in, and of course, as we all know, they end up with their little love circle. Sheridan eventually gets Sebastian to let Delenn go. They hug and console each other, and Sebastian goes off. And it said that Sheridan does a little bit of digging, and surely enough finds out that he is, in fact, Jack the Ripper. So anyways, lots of good stuff to talk about in the comments below. Let me know if these shorter sessions are working for you. Seems to really help and shorten the upload times quite a lot to YouTube. I don't know what sort of time limits they have, but at any rate, like, comment, subscribe, and share. We're close to 100 subscribers, and I hope to see you all very soon. We're almost one more episode at the end of Season 2.